Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm your humble host, Mr. David Null, moving the camera around. And I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom from the universe. And with that said, I greet you tonight. It's 11:20, and so somewhere in the world, it's 4:20. So smoke if you got them. And all of a sudden, just before I got on, hi Scratch, hey Sarah, and Sarah, thank you for the kind words you send, and everybody else too. And Scratch, it was great looking at the Schumann thing the other day. I say, I'm picking on folks, but you know, it's I like to have banter. One of the things that I miss with some of my friends is that we used to just banter about things, and sometimes I'd take, even though we might agree, I would take the contrary side just so we could not necessarily have an argument, but so we could banter back and forth. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, thanks, Scratch. 4:20 here. Yep. I got my bowl ready, and I thought, this is a little bit different of a. I don't want to necessarily say a format, but you know, is there necessarily a spiritual message or something related to shamanism in this versus this is just a discussion concerning aliens, UFOs, blah blah blah. Anyway, so but with that said, it will relate if you understand the bigger picture. So it's 4:20 somewhere. Actually, it's 4:22 now. So, but still within range. UTC time for our folks in Britain and um, Denmark, Holland, Germany. And Australia. That's why I waited until 11:20, just for the hell of it, just to have an excuse, you know, just for the fun of it. I want to say thank you, Bob, and to the internet. It's been fairly less glitchy lately. They have fixed the phone lines up here at the top of the driveway. So, and it seems like the picture is more stable and so forth. Well, thank you for that, and thank you, Bob, back there in the back. We know you're rooting for us, and if you got coffee, I got some tonight. So anyway, wasn't hadn't really decided on wanting to do a video tonight. Went into town and I paid my taxes, so my rent's paid for this next year. Almost $400, not quite, but I got a rebate back from the electric company that was almost $55. So it's like, whoa, that was nice. But anyway, the good thing is that this year I had the money saved up so that although it's never easy to shell out $400 when you're on limited income, at least I had it this year at way ahead of time. And so, there were things that I gave up at the beginning of the year so that I would have the money at the end of the year. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, the idea that a penny saved is a penny earned, that I think it was a Ben Franklin saying, gotta wonder, right? So, but anyway, I've learned with my meek salary every month from Social Security, which cut my pay almost $400, from what they should be paying me. But anyway, I'm okay. But when you honestly learn to live within your means, it means a lot. So anyway, now there's a lot of stuff in the news here recently. You know, the Israeli guy talked about, you know, um, the UFO thing, and yes, they exist. And the only reason, you know, they've been living among us, but the only reason they haven't showed themselves to us is because mankind isn't ready yet. You know, now, for a lot of us who've been in this sort of this realm of thinking, I've been in this realm for 20 years, okay, with I know the ET's out there. I've seen too much evidence myself, having nothing to do with the rest of the world, if you would, because of, you know, these things that I have witnessed that, you know, that's just not normal. Now, as to it seems to me that there are folks with this idea with the great deception. And I don't really want to call any names or anybody, but there's some famous people. And listen, I respect these people highly. I do, because they're really trying. But here's the catch. So they will admit that there are UFOs, but somehow that because it's been put in their heads that the great deception is that if and when the aliens make themselves present, you know, here we are, there are going to be folks who are going to say, well, but they are our ancestors, and they actually came here, colonized Earth, and some of us are related to these people. And oh my God, that's going to create such a big, massive headache for everybody. But now, here's the thing. You know, if my relation in what I have followed back through was arranged, I was, you know, our family was originally French. Went over to England to help with King Arthur and the Oval Table, and then got landed, became landed gentries in England, and then came over to the colonies, and that's how we got here. So my ancestry wouldn't be German, or no, it'd be French if my family lineage is true. So but on my other parents' side, you know, grossmother, she was my great grandmother, was from Germany, you know. So my grandmother, that I always talk about, that we had this special connection, she was the first descendant. You know, she was, you know, the first German American, and you know, because her mother came over on the and father came over on the boat, and which is interesting. I never asked this question, and they're all dead now. I wonder if any of my aunts who were older than Granny were actually born in Germany. Anyway, but to the point though, with this though. Um, So if we say, well, wait a minute, your ancestry, well, my ancestry is French. Well, what if somebody, if somehow through the idea that because of blue eyes and certain genealogy and stuff, for example, I've kind of had this thing for a long time about being Palladian. And I rarely discuss it, but it's my own personal little thing because of what I know within myself. So, you know, I don't know any other traits or anything about this or that, or who the, you know, the Palladians, you know, seem to, you know, not everything's good about them, you know. And that, but at the same point, there are certain traits that I do feel I could be um, associated with. Okay, with that said, so what's to say, well, my ancestry comes from France, or my ancestry comes from, you know, one of the Palladian, you know, there are a bunch of stars in the Palladian cluster. It's called Seven Sisters, but if you ever look at that cluster, there is a bunch of stars out there. So you could be from Pleiades, like you could be from the solar system of Sol, ours. You could be from Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. You know what I'm saying? So where, what planet you lived on within a solar system does not necessarily mean, if you lived on Jupiter, you're not an Earthling. You know what I mean? But we live in the same solar system. Now, there are people who are going to say, well, holy cow, wait a minute. This can't happen. No, we can't have that. But they'll believe that they're descendants of a monkey, right? That somehow we're from the great apes. And there was recently, within the last week or so, another scientific study about the missing link between humans and monkeys. And I'm like, the people who still believe that we are from monkeys, they're the missing link, because they're the idiots that still believe it, And if people want to continue thinking that our evolution is from a primate, then you should go hang from your prehensile tail. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, they could believe that, but they can't believe or wouldn't believe that somehow, because there's not just one or two races out there of alien, right? There's a bunch of them. I took my meds late. I think I took them. I have sinus drain every 4 to 6 hours. Anyway, sorry about that. But so with this idea, though, that if ET shows up and says, look, we've got a lot of records, and we'd just like to share them with you, and these people who have this kind of bloodline, more or less, have come from this region of space. And these folk over here come from this region of space. And they're, two different folks from different areas of space could get together, and then there's a third, right? So just like, the Germans and the Italians could get together, and then what do you get? A German that likes Swedish, likes meatballs and never mind. And a big lager of beer, right? I was thinking, roll out the barrel, Oktoberfest, with pizza. So instead of sauerkraut on pizza, that's a German way. Okay, anyway. So this idea, though, that this great deception has been put in, the dude that was von Braun, that was, German rocket, came over Project Paperclip, worked, he was the NASA guy and everything, and the rockets and everything. And which was interesting, because once they got out of a particular thing, mysteriously, like somebody asked a few years back, why couldn't they get build the rockets that we had before? And the comment is because they said all the plans and all the drawings and everything are gone. And I was like, what? They were like, yeah, when NASA went through that thing and it slowed down and everything, the stuff just got lost. You're trying to tell me that years and years and years and years of, mechanical design and prints on jet and propulsion and rocket engines and so forth is just gone, and you can't get it back. These same smart people still aren't around anyway. So the Russians have been putting us into space, theoretically. So now, but here's the thing. But there are a lot of us that already understand that the Christ consciousness, there's also dragon folks who like to eat people, okay? And lizard people, not necessarily dragons per se, but and that these are the traits of certain genetic terms out from different colonies in space, different subsets or whatever. So if your ancestry and you were a lizard, is that necessarily your fault? if you're born into the lizard stuff, you know? I mean, or, you know, for me, blue eyes, blah, 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 certain things. Okay. You know, does that make me Palladian? Have no idea. Okay. But the point is there are certain markers within each one of us that slightly distinguish us from other traits of other people just on this planet. But now, from the mixture of one side of my family is, you know, Gentile, and the other side is Native American. And, you know, pretty strong Native American. Great grandmother was a full blood, and great grandmother was half, and grandmother was half Cherokee. So there's a strong Native culture in there, along with, quote, white, if you will, for me. So, but what does that mean in the bigger picture? Well, it means I'm not related to any Germans. I'm not related to any of the Vikings. You know what I'm saying? Does it really matter in the long run? No, but that is my blood lineage. Okay. So if there truly are other races out there, and, you know, if in this day and age, it's almost foolish not to be able to see some of these videos and go, huh, that's the real deal right there. Along with those of us who have actually seen our own craft and seen things happen, you know, it's like, holy macrolandy, you know, like a couple of years ago in the spring, was outside. Spirit said, go out and watch, go up and look up at the sky. And I saw this orange thing coming out of Tallahassee and got just passed overhead. And this big white light popped up like this far in the sky from it, shoot a laser beam at it and disappeared. And the other one went poof and everything disappeared. And I was like, anyway. So I've seen one get smashed up in the atmosphere and literally strew the whole atmosphere with parts. It was like, it looked like the shuttle accident times 3. Okay. And it wasn't a meteorite, or it wasn't a, you know, a meteor. Because I've seen a lot of those. But anyway, it was something big that hit the atmosphere. And so those of us who have seen for ourselves that there's something up there. Now, I don't believe, just like on this earth, there are bad people and there are good people. And there's some folks in between. They're mildly shitty, you know. And once in a while, they, you know, they get the runs, if you will. So, and that's okay. But to think that, you know, that if the aliens show up, that somehow they're only going to be one kind. They're going to be here to deceive us. And now, what's wrong with saying that the bloodline of Christ or of John Smith or of Humphrey Bogart or of anybody else, their bloodline eventually came from a different planet, a different world, a different star system? Oh my God. But we years ago we said, well, he came from France. His grandmother was French, or my granny's mother was full bleed German, you know, and spoke broken English. That's probably why I didn't understand her as a little kid. But the idea, though, that somehow outer space makes it different. Now, I would say that what makes it different is how socially we have been trained that, oh my God, if they come, and they're already here, right? So if they come and they open up and they tell us these things, then they're going to talk this spiritual nonsense, and everybody's going to be led away from religion. Now, you know my point of view about religion. If you got to have it, okie dokie, but spiritualism has absolutely nothing to do with any religion or worshiping any deity or worship at all. You know, there is honor and respect and adoration in the universe always. And we always say thank you to the universe. And, you know, but in this idea, though, that somehow some of these space creatures are going to go, well, I'm half lizard and you came for me. Okay. I thought, okay, does that mean I used to be a tadpole? You know, that sounds cool. Where at? Do you have pictures? Well, if you look at how humans first developed, we are little tadpoles. So you got to scratch your head and go, what? I mean, the little sperm get together with the egg and they do this thing, and out comes this little tadpole thing. And for a while, it looks like a tadpole. And then all of a sudden, within a week or two or three, it turns into this little human little thingy, like, right? Looks like a little pup, actually. But anyway, but to the point, when we first start out, we look like a tadpole. Let's be real. And we get transformed through birth into, what we look like. And some of us still look like, reptile after they're born. But anyway, the idea, though, that somehow if the great deception, in other words, uh, disclosure, yep, here we are. Now, one of the things that was said in the underground kind of news was that folks in the know that in the movie Men in Black, that when they come out and open up and there's all these different aliens coming and going and all this stuff, that they're actually true aliens. Maybe not exactly, but they look exactly like certain aliens. And there's like 5 or 6 in there that, like, if you had ever seen the Russian book on aliens, you would go, holy crap, there's one. Holy crap, there's one. There, oh wow, Now, are they really aliens? There was some discussion that yes, some of the aliens in that movie are represented there, but it's like, can you pick them out? So, but in this idea of disclosure, they're disclosing to us that there are lots of other possibilities in the universe, Um, in the population of bears, for example, there's black bear, there's brown bear, there's grizzly bear, there's polar bear, all bears are not the same. In the cat uh, uh, feline. Okay, you got kitty cats, then you got tomcats. Some of them are pretty big. Then around here we've got bobcats, and them suckers are almost as big as a damn panther. Then you got panthers, and then you got mountain lions, and then you got tigers and lions in other countries. But to the point, though, in the feline area, there are different kinds. So in human beings, there's black, brown, green, yellow, purple, blue, and there's some colors in between that I haven't figured out yet. But with that said, though, the folks who are tied in with religion in some way, not all religions now. I mean, the Native Americans are going, we're waiting on our Sky Brothers to come. It's a matter of time now. Really, to many shamans and Native Americans, it's time. This is the time that they're going to come back and allow themselves to be, but anyway, but is it, I don't think it's the Native Americans' religion. I think it's just their belief and understanding. So some people, well, it's a great mystery because did they ever meet them? Well, some of these native folks have met some aliens for real, and some of the stories. And you got to wonder, I've asked this question to the legend keepers in Alaska, my good friend Kashka, and we would sit for hours and have discussion about what's a story, what's a legend, what's a fairy tale, what's a fable, and the definition and what they sort of mean, in white man's world, okay? But in the native world, a legend is like, it's the truth, it's the truth, it's history. So we listen to the legends and we say, well, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me that, Turtle Island and that the Great Spirit came from the sky and and the crow and the raven and yeah. And they believe that sky people exist since then. And it's thousands of years old in their culture. So they're taught to accept it from the day they're born. It's just there. The rest of us are convinced that it doesn't exist. Okay. There are no sky people. There are no star folk. Nope, none of that. That's all hooey. It's a legend, right? So they convince the white people that it's a legend, and to the all indigenous people, it's history. All right. So if that's our history, and if many of these native cultures already believe that their ancestry comes from the sky, they're a lot closer to the truth than the rest of folks because they've already accepted that. You follow me? So in that, there's some Christian folks who are just going to go ape shit. I don't know how else to put it. And that's putting it mildly. But I think that they're going to lose their ever living mind because they're going to have to accept, but Jesus is going to come back out on a cloud. How many of videos and pictures in the last 2 or 3 years have you seen where there's a UFO is hidden in? I mean, the whole cloud looks like a UFO, and it's the only cloud in the sky. And so is Christ in a cloud? Is he already here? Did he come back? Now, I've had this discussion, and I believe that the Christ consciousness has already been here and is on this planet already. Okay. But if he stood up in a crowd and said, "Hi, that guy you call Jesus? I'm his reincarnation," they'd probably shoot him, lock him up, give him some Thorazine, and that'd be that. And so, but the idea, if you understand the Christ consciousness concept, each one of us who wish to believe in it are also a part of that Christ consciousness. It's the consciousness of do no harm. Period. Do no harm. To not be greedy, to be honorable, to be, lovable, to be, caring, and to be, that's that consciousness, Buddha consciousness. But well, what about these other little demigods along the way? Well, what about Venus? She was the goddess of love. Well, what's wrong with that? Did she carry a spear and go around hacking people up in pieces? No. So was she a deity? Maybe, but at least it's an ideal. Okay. So the idea that love can be transformed and we can have these feelings and motherly love and okay. So whether Venus herself existed as a goddess, okay, that's my point. Whether we choose to believe that or not, or it's at least a great story, and we can believe in the premise of that. Wouldn't it be nice if such an entity did exist? I'm game for that, whether her name was Venus or, Betty or Joanne. I mean, no offense to Betty's and Joanne's, but, she could be a Barbara Jean, or a Bobby Jean. I have a special friend of mine is Bobby Jean. So anyway, I can pick on her that way. But to the point, though, if it's the embodiment of womanhood, of female, of nurturing, and of love, and of caring and giving, hey, why not? So just as there could be, Mars if he was the god of war, okie dokie, because I think I've met a lot of men who would rather, they'd have a couple of drinks and want to go punch it out with each other. I have never wanted to do that. Come on, dude, let's go outside and see who's toughest. Y'all go ahead. I'll sit here and watch. And it's not that I'm chicken. I just don't see the point. If I have to fight somebody, get ready, because, I'm going to do the best I can to put you down first because I don't want to go down, but I will try my best to avoid it if at all possible. If not, okay, it's on. But, there's very few times I've ever had to go to that it's on point But when somebody saw me go there, they were like, hey, man, okay, all right. So, I think each one of us has a dark side, if you will, in such that I could be so enraged that I'd want to choke the living crap out of somebody. I mean, choke them to death, watch them die, and just be happy about it. And there was a gentleman who lived around here 15, 20 years ago. He's been dead for a while. And he was suspected of molesting children. And he was in his 70s, drove around and always talking to people and, hey, come here, and I just hate the thought of the thought. And a young girl disappeared while she had been seen hanging around with him. And then she just disappeared. Nobody knows where she went. And so it's like, and he was just creepy. But I wanted to choke him to death and told him so and had my hands around his throat. And then I found out yesterday that someone's daughter there is very suspect that a family member has fondled a 3-year-old. Now that makes me want to go choke the living something out of somebody. You know what I mean? And that is just, I'm sorry. There's wrong and then there's wrong and then there's wrong. But in each of us, I think there is something I say on the dark side in that, I would probably look like a freaking demon if I found out, and it would be hard for me to restrain myself from wanting to do harm to somebody like that. Because I was molested as a child and so forth, and, and living through with that all my life and all that kind of stuff. And the years of being drunk and pills and therapy, so, there is that part of me that goes way back to my abuse. But to the point, though, we all have, I believe, a dark side in us that if push comes to shove, we're going to save our daughter, our son. Maybe it's your dog. I mean, there are folks who don't have children, but they've got animals that, and that's okay because we have that in us. All right. But wants to say, well, somebody said, well, I saw you get angry. You must have Draco. You must be part dragon or something. Listen, I think each one of us has got a little part dragon in us. You know what I mean? We should have a little bit of dragon in us, as a self-protection, because there's one thing about doing no harm to others. And then there's when somebody's poking you with the knife and you go, I choose to turn the knife on you and stay alive. Or I just say, well, I give in, I'm done here, go ahead and kill me. Now, there are those people who would not fight. And I'm like, okie dokie. But whatever my lineage is, if I got to that point, there's a limit. And I would turn into a Viking barbarian, just saying. I think I would turn into a true rebel, with the rebel yell and I would go full redneck on their ass. But so in this great deception, though, we have all these variables. Look up at the sky and go, how many stars are there? Okay, that's how many different kinds of folks there are. There are white people, from Mississippi. There are white people from Alabama, and there are white people from Georgia. They don't necessarily see eye to eye, although they're all Southerners. They're all white people, just picking on them, But, the folks in Mississippi got a different way of looking. I've met a lot of folks in Alabama, slightly different point of view. Folks in Georgia, and I've talked about South Georgia down here. You go a little further north towards Macon, and those folks in Georgia ain't quite the same as down here in the South. Don't know what it is. A little colder climate. Don't know. But to the point though, so all folks in Georgia, from one end of the state to the other, we all live within the same state, but we don't all look and act and do the same. You know, so this idea that somehow there's going to be like one size fits all in the alien thing, right? Eh. So we could have some that all are blonde and blue eyed and everything, but this group's from over here, this group's from way over yonder, and this group here ain't got nothing, and they don't have a damn thing to do with each other than way back when through whatever lineage that they all share a common trait: blue eyes, blonde hair, tallish. And I'm not saying any particular race, I'm just saying they would look similar. So you'd go, well, where are you from? Well, you must be from Sweden. You're tall and blonde and have that fair complexion. No, I'm from South Africa. What? Yeah. Well, no, my ancestors moved to South Africa, and they were from, Germanic Sweden, Norway up there. That's true. But no, I was born in South Africa. Well, how did that happen? Well, because of genes, right? And it could be machine washable genes. It could be, Levi genes, or your genes from your daddy and your mama's genes. One size fits all with the stretch pants. But anyway, so if we're trying to understand, okay, so what are these people talking about the deception? That the aliens are going to come down here and tell us that we're related, and that we brought God with us a long time ago, and and these is who the people are. Well, if you look through history and be honest, you got to say, even in the Bible, when the burning bush, God spoke from a burning bush. Well, okay. Well, couldn't it have been a transporter beam? I mean, we've all seen Star Trek. And here's the thing: those types of things actually do exist in the universe. We're just back here on this backwoods planet acting like Tarzan and Jane, okay? So would the aliens really want to show themselves to us? Well, the more I think about it, no. Not because we're not ready, but we aren't. Why? And here's the big thing: people are too greedy. They want this, they want that, they want this, they want that. Well, when are the med beds coming? Now, I'd like to know that one. Been promising that for 10 years. Would love to see a med bed. Please let me lay down and get some of this arthritis and fix my lower back some. Please, Jesus, let me have one. How much does it cost, right? But so no, they're not. But there's some in Germany, and there's some over here. Okay, so where's the widespread thing? All right. What about we have 3D printers now. Well, that's like a replicator. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. Sorry. A replicator is supposed to take molecular stuff from nowhere inside the machine and replicate it like in a microwave. A 3D printer is a printer. It's simply, you put materials in it and you build it as it goes. That's not the same. But people are trying to say, well, the replicators, they're like 3D printers. No, not the way they were described. Okay, I mean, look at Star Trek. The cup and everything appears in the window, and they pull it out. There was nothing in there to begin with. Now, so a 3D printer is not going to print me hot coffee, okay, with sugar and a dash of milk. So it's going to make the cup maybe, but that's it, right? So, but to this whole point about accepting this and where's the deception? I think the deception is that they're trying to deceive us into believing that there's a deception. Wait, what did I just say? Right. They're trying to deceive us into believing that there's a great deception. Because von Braun said back in the late 60s and the 70s, and it was repeated to his secretary who did this thing, and von Braun said, and so all these folks have been listening about how, there's going to be this, and then there's going to be that, and then they're going to come up with aliens, and that it's going to be the Great Deception. Well, aren't we? Isn't that the stages we've actually been going through? Yes. But here's the thing. So what is the deception? What is their, well, but that they're going to say that they were gods, or there are gods, there are ancestors. Well, wait a minute. What if they don't claim that they're gods? What if they just claim that there are ancestors? Well, but wait a minute. My granny came, her ancestor, her mother came over on the boat from Germany. I mean, came over on a boat. So why can't somebody's grandma have come in on a ship, boat, water, space, who cares? And said, we landed here as pioneers and you're from this lineage. Is that so? I mean, to me, it sounds just as easy to understand is that somehow this God with a wand created, said, you're there, boing, 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 boing. Now, I'd much rather believe in that I have ancestors who came here and through progeny and, good old fashioned had babies and we were manipulated and we're here. Why not? What's wrong with having an outer space relationship, that our relations might actually be from another planet, from another solar system, from another freaking galaxy on the other side of the universe that right now, even with the bestest telescope, looks like about this big, but it's as big as the Milky Way. It's as big as our galaxy. So in this idea of the world, I'm hoping that, in my own heart and so forth, I already know that this is the story. I mean, ours are the only chromosome and DNA that's been tampered with. The 1 and 2 are switched. No other critter on the planet, no other anything has that except humans. And that means we have been doctored, period. Nature didn't do that to us, okay? And so we have to understand that, wait a minute, we're the only species on the planet that's got that twist, right? What does that suggest to you? Well, after seeing everybody, all these movies and all this stuff about manipulating DNA, how does DNA on normal functions and normal stuff, you twist them and pair them? And so did nature do that to us? I don't think so. I never have. I mean, for the longest time when I saw that, I said, wait a minute, we must be from outer space, or at least related to somebody out there. So, now what about that means we're all Nephilim? No, we're hybrids, Some of us are Charista, some of us are from, Anunnakian, there are folks who say the Anunnaki were the bad guys. Get off of that, will you? But then there are the Vlash, and there's the Mater. There's all these other different races out in space. And we could be a combination of this one and that one and that. If two people got together and had hanky-panky, then there you go. So some of us might actually have lizard DNA, but it's we're mostly something else, okay? But to the point. And that happens just here on Earth, all right? So the Great Deception. So what are they going to deceive us about? Oh, those people are bad. Everybody in space is bad. Is that going to be the thing? That we can't trust them space aliens because they say they're our ancestors. Okay, I believe that. My ancestors are not monkeys. I will believe that I got ancestors in space 1,000 times more than you'll ever try to get me to believe. Well, you'll never get me to believe that I'm from a monkey. Period. There you go. Are there traits? Yeah. Are there similarities? Yeah. Do I have a tail? I'm sitting on it, but I can't hang from it, you know? But the idea, though, that there are anomalies in the universe. Just look at the anomalies we have on this planet. You know, just in the human race. With you know, when I worked with the handicapped and with CP victims, cerebral palsy, depending, you know, and different types of maladies and so forth. Drooping eyes, mongoloidism, you know, you name it. And some of the weirdities and oddities that you see simply by um, something going wrong within the mother, you know, just supposedly. Now, lots of things could happen, but you know, the them chromosomes just didn't quite do what they're supposed to, and whatever the genetic sequence of them, they just, you know, somebody's born with a short arm and they have CP, and that, you know, they'll never be able to open their hands. This is it for them for life, you know. And so I've always worked with them to try to be able to open their hands and to do exercises and to relieve because, you know, their muscles are always constricting. So, but anyway, you know, and someone could say, well, maybe, you know, God's tampering with them. Well, you know, could have been a vaccine that mother got, you know, could have been something, you know, of this or that. I mean, there's a lot of variables. Back in the day, there was a whole group of women who took, like, I don't know, it was some kind of drug. And there was this, within a 2-year period, there were a lot of babies that were born with like short arms, and it was strange. And I can't remember what the drug was, but man, if they'd have had if them folks had got together back in the day and sued, oh, but to the point, I knew some kids who were about my age because we were born during that same time. But anyway, so as I sit here and ponder this, as I've been pondering it here recently, since of all this UFO activity, what is the Great Deception? Who's going to try to do the decepting? I think I can make up my own mind about this. I mean, I've looked at the facts all of my life and said, you know, I don't believe I'm from a monkey. You know, do I believe that certain things could change over the years? Yeah, but I don't think a duck's going to become a pig. That ain't happening. You know, there are certain things that just ain't going to happen. Can certain birds change their wing length, or, you know, their wings will get shorter or their beaks will get longer or something? Can that evolve? Yeah, within a species. But to change a subspecies to another, you know, a butterfly is not going to turn into a fish. Ain't going to happen, you know. Sorry, wrong set of circumstances. So in that, but there are going to be, and I couldn't believe it. It was an article just here within this last week about, you know, how they have determined this extra thing about how humans are related to monkeys, because they refuse to accept that there is another answer, a very possible and plausible solution, whether you believe in the ancient alien thing or not. But it's a whole lot more easier to accept than my great ancestor was a gorilla. You know, I'm just saying. I've met a few gorillas in my lifetime, and they were perfectly fine beings, but I just don't believe that, you know, I'm from, you know, my great ancestors were apes. just don't think that. Maybe a Wookiee, okay, but not of a great ape, you know. So anyway, slightly slanted. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, that's right, Michelle. It was an anti morning sickness or something, and it messed up a bunch of children. There were thousands and thousands of children. Yeah, back in the day. Thalidomide, that's what it is. I see. Hi, everybody. I had to get my glasses off and had to try to stay in focus about this, but yeah, I mean, I knew people. I went to school with people that were the result of that. Uh, you know, back in the day. So let's see who else is hanging out. Wow, it says there's 19 people. Hi, Al. Off duty now. Perry driving in New Mexico, heading to LA. Love you, brother. Be safe out there. Let's see. I know y'all don't have to, pitch in. I just wanted to see, it's a great evening. Hey, David Castle, if you're still out there. Michelle, Teresa, Scratch. And Sarah and Teresa. And I'm trying to scroll. Robert V. Hey, Robert, did you get my email? Thank you for the book. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. He's probably gone. All right. Yeah, because it's late for him. But anyway, in thinking about this evening, hi, Julianne. Good to see you as well. Yes, Scratch, it is disgusting what these monsters do to people, and I've discussed this before, but let me put this little 10 cents in your head. I've worked in all different types of manufacturing. I've worked in the food manufacturing, food processing, making carpet backing, weaving, automotive industry, in that we made spark plug wires for almost every type of vehicle that's out on the road, all except for Chevrolet. We didn't get much of that business because that's a separate thing. But anyway, all Fords, Chryslers, Hondas, Nissans. We made spark plug wires for them all. And I designed the tooling and the machines and everything that help produce these things. Okay, so, but here's the thing. Anywhere in the industry, through normal manufacturing process, it's written in when you start doing, how much when you start doing a cost analysis, whether it's, jars of peanut butter or pieces of spark plug wires or whatever it is, right? So you do a cost analysis. Well, you automatically put 10% scrap in there right off the top. It's automatic. There, 10% of the product it could be mislabeling. It could be something leaked into the peanut butter, or the ink ran on the spark plug wires. It could be any number of things. But the thing is that 10% is written into the manufacturing process as a loss. So it's going to cost you whatever that 10% is it's in your cost analysis. Now, with the vaccine stuff, they produce this stuff, they still have the same 10% because it's manufactured. So, one of the things I've always been a little leery about, and I've told you all about vitamins. Here's the thing. If you've got different kinds of vitamin, if you're taking Centrum or some of these other vitamins that have a hard coating on them, do this. I did this test, and I was like, yep, I was right. So I took a vitamin that's got a hard coating on it, all right, and dropped it in some water. And I took a separate little shot glass, same water, and I took one of my other pills and dropped it in there. And I came back about an hour and a half later, okay, and the one with the soft shell, coating had turned into this, because it was just sitting there. It just sort of melted into this little blob. It didn't quite dissolve, but it had melted into this little blobby thing, right? The other one hadn't, nothing had changed. Nothing. It hadn't, there wasn't any discoloration on it. That coating was not dissolving in the water. So I said, this is interesting. Let me see how. I left that vitamin in that cup for 2 days and finally just dumped it out. Now, but what I did do was that I dumped the water out, but I broke it in half, put water back in it, and let it sit. And within a couple of hours, the inside had already goozed out and everything. So my point about those kind of vitamins, if you've got them, break them in half before you eat them, before you take them. Otherwise, they're going to pass right through your stool and either end up in a septic tank, or it's going to end up in the local sewage treatment plant. Because if I stated before, I used to go around, a good friend of mine that just recently passed away here these couple of months ago, worked on Davis Water and Waste, and they built wastewater treatment plants. And we used to go around and service them and work on the pumps and the thing and the big twirly things anyway. And everyone I went to, there's all these vitamins and things floating. Along with, it's horrible, but all the tampons that float on top with the Centrums, it's an interesting, and foam and the smell. But vitamins, just thousands of vitamins just floating, they don't even dissolve under the conditions. Get this, under the conditions of aeration with fairly normal sewage treatment plants. I mean, they still float. They still don't dissolve, So anyway, so, they will tell you, here, take this multivitamin, but then they don't tell you that it's going to pass right through your body because the coating, okay? Now, the reason for the coating is that those vitamins are so strong, they will upset most people's stomachs. So they don't tell you that in the brochure. They don't tell you that in the commercials, but they tell you, take a Centrum, take a vitamin this like that, and this and this and this and this. But you put your vitamins in a little bit of water and see if they dissolve. If they don't dissolve, then you better break them in half or buy another kind that will dissolve. Period. Okay. Bottom line, it's not a hard test. But and if somebody tries to sell you on it, I mean, I would say go to a sewage treatment plant and watch all the vitamins floating around. The better thing to do is just drop your favorite vitamin in the water and see if it'll dissolve. Take one, break it in half. Take one and don't break it in half, and watch the difference and see for yourself. It's a simple experiment, So, but anyway, but in this pharmaceutical thing, and are we sure that the vitamins are good? Are we sure that what they're telling us is really what they're telling us? I had a new drug that was given to me several years ago, going on 6 years now, that, sent me into grand mal seizures, drooling out both sides of my mouth, couldn't stay awake, having seizures all the time. And, and the neurologist at the time told me, it's your fault. No, it's the drug. Banzel, don't ever take it. Yuck, yuck. So, to take something on a regular basis all the time, which I do, unfortunately, I take a half of a Benadryl every 6 hours. When my nose starts running and I can't stop, it's time for my Benadryl. But instead of taking a whole one, I take a half. Same thing with my ibuprofen. I've got a lot of pain and a lot of agony, and so I can go for a while, but I usually take two of the 200 milligram ibuprofen, where I was taking 400. I was taking 800 milligrams 3 times a day. Now I'm taking 4, 8, I'm taking 4 3 times a day. So I've cut everything in half. And I try to let it go as long as I can. I'll take one if if my nose ain't running, I won't take the Benadryl. I'll wait. So, but that's my drug intake. Where before I was taking 19, 20, 21 kind of pills a day, not counting my vitamins. So, what was all that doing to me, and all of the interactions? And don't tell me that these pharmacists and folks know what what these interactions do. They don't. So, or what if you're pregnant, or what if a man, it affects his sperm in some way? What if something, something, something? I mean, I've been, in the industries that I've been in, we used to wash our hands with gasoline. I mean, there would be gasoline in a in an old on the carnival. We did this. And it still does, by the way. There's certain oils that will come in a steel 5-gallon bucket with a lid that curls around it, kind of thing. And we'd get popcorn like that too. We could get it in plastic buckets, but for some reason they package this stuff, especially palm oil, in these steel 5-gallon buckets. So we'd take one of those after the oil was out and use it out on the ride, and we'd pour gasoline in the bottom of this thing. I mean, you just pour gasoline, and we'd wash up at them, up to our shoulders. We'd be washing in gasoline, and I think that's why I have certain skin issues at this age. But it should have killed us back then, and the long-term exposure to it should have killed us. And they told us don't do that, but we didn't have Gojo back then. I mean, those were those times, and this is now. So anyway, with that said, there are a lot of us who've exposed to things. How do we know they haven't somehow jumbled up our stuff along the way? We don't know until after it happens. Like having a child and whatever, and you don't know until after it happens. But there are a lot of things that you could have been, exposed to. I mean, we had our vaccines, we had to take our, the polio was, it was some kind of monkey juice, they told us, and a little cup of stuff that we all had to chug. I remember that as a kid going, what? Then we had to go back and get shots, and it left a great big old whelp on one side or the other. There was a bunch of bumps and everything. Now you could tell, I can't remember which shoulder it was, but there's a white blotch about yay big on a lot of us old people. It's just scarred over. But when we were younger, that it looked like a navel sitting on your shoulder, or, on your arm right there. So anyway, and how many of you old people remember that one, but anyway, scratch. I take no meds at all for my severe illness. Was once on 7, but I recognized they slowly killing me. Yep. Yeah. Well, considering everything that I've come off of, I'm not dead yet either. But I'm under so much pain that I do my best. But if I didn't take a couple every 6 or 8 hours, old Dave would be stuck in this chair all the time. And I ain't doing that. I just ain't, yeah, grand mal seizures, like, yeah, that I'll tell you, grand mal seizures are not fun, and for folks who have ever had them. Hey, Project Sky Falls. Let's see, Jesus Christ, I can feed you for 1,000,000 years, but you would still be stupid. Yep. Bob needs coffee. Yes, Teresa. Always. Mossy Man, hey, how are you? If you're still on, slightly slanted. And Julianne, okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to have this discussion and sort of bring it up because, for years I have been watching this, this great deception. And there are some lovely people out there who believe in giants and aliens and Bigfoot and stuff like that. But the idea that we are somehow related to aliens, that they can't buy that. And I'm like, you can believe in Bigfoot, but you can't believe that we might be related to some aliens out there? Really? Seriously? I mean, honest to God? Um, well, okay. So with this deception, now, who's going to try to do the deceiving? Is it going to be the church that's going to? Well, there's, the Pope already said there's angels out there. So, and there's other folks in the religious areas that have, and like I say, most shamans and native peoples, they understand that the sky, there's sky beings and the brothers and sisters up yonder. So, um, where is the deception going to come from? Is the government going to try to do the deceiving? Or is it going to be the religion that is going to try to deceive you into not believing that some of these people could actually be our ancestors? See, or they're trying to say the deception is that they're going to try to make us believe it. You don't have to make me believe anything. I choose to do so on my own. The Catholic Church filled my head so full of nonsense, about, well, what about this, sister? Well, God, that's God's word. It's a mystery, and smack you with a ruler and go, and just believe it. It's a mystery. Well, okay, but wait a minute. But as I got older, I could start seeing the other things. I mean, am I really from a monkey? Oh, okay. But what about this? And of course, as being born in 52, UFOs was a big deal. So I grew up in the UFO era. And but I also grew up when I would wake up in the middle of the night when I was growing up in Tampa, looking out the window and seeing Pleiades in the sky. And I mean, I'm like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This went on for a bunch of years, having not a clue. I mean, I would literally not remember going to the window. All I had to do was like sit up on my knees, but to look out the window, I'd be looking out the window and then I'd go, I'm kneeling up in bed, and it's like 2 a.m, or something. And so this happened. That's why I say there's something, me and Pleiades, I don't know, but as a child, I've often wondered whether or not I wasn't taken, at least in thought form. And so I learned how to fly around the room as a young child with my magic pillow, I called it. But I was learning how to astral project. And so was I being taken to, but I'd wake up, those times that I did, and there'd be that little star cluster up there in the sky. And I'd be wondering, why am I looking out the window? Now, I love looking out the window, don't get me wrong, and watching the sky, but I wouldn't remember going to the window, you know what I mean? So anyway, in my world, I'd be, if they were lizards, I would hope that they would be like, Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars, and they'd be fairly decent lizard kind of folk, versus anyway. And of course, for myself, I was born in the year of the dragon, and a water dragon at that, in a Chinese calendar. So that's interesting. But it also helps to sort of, who am I? There's that dragon characteristic that is in me. So, and all of us that were born in 52, the year of that dragon. But anyway, so as I'm pondering this a little bit more, I'm who's going to do the deceiving? It's going to be interesting, because it's going to come up here probably sooner maybe than later, because they keep dropping these, quote, bombshells. Now, I remember back when the Canadian minister came out and said, "Oh yeah, there's UFOs, and there, I understand there's 4 or 5 different races." Then he came back and said, "Wow, they updated me and said there are 11 different races that were being visited by." So, and the Russians have known about 40 or 50 of them for a long time. So this idea that we're made out of, we all look the same here on this earth. No, we don't. Aliens, they don't all look the same. No, they don't. They don't all act the same. They don't all like peach cobbler. You know what I'm saying? And if you're an alligator, you're an alligator, period. If you're a crocodile, you're a crocodile. Try to feed, a head of cabbage to a crocodile. Don't think so, but a chihuahua or a little poodle, whoa, man, but so we can't take away who we are. We might not like it, but at the same point, I'm going to do a separate video on deviant behavior, because in thinking back on what happened to me, what's happened to friends of mine, the priest who had deviant behavior, different people, there was some really ugly things that happened when I was in jail. There was some ugly things that happened in jail too, but we got a prisoner in one time who him and his wife had did some really nasty things to like a 4-year-old. And the 4-year-old died, and they buried her in the backyard. The neighbor's dog dug her up. Oh God, it was horrible. And when they put that guy in lockup, they put him in with the meanest, nastiest. And there were people saying, "Hey, I'll transfer me over there. I want a piece of this guy." They beat the ever. You could hear that man scream all over that jail all night long, and prisoners going, "Yeah," and cheering, "Ooh," and the guards, taking bets on how long he could last. He was in the infirmary the next day, and nobody asked a question. Nobody asked anything about what happened to him. Well, we just put him in population. Well, they don't do that anymore. Well, they can put you in population for a few hours. And then, we had to create a cell for him. We didn't have one. We had to put him somewhere, throw him in with 15, murderers and biker gangs, and thugs. Yeah. Yeah. And gotta say, we all were like, there can be justice. The one thing in jail, a pedophile or a baby raper or something like that. A rapist, but what they consider a baby raper, oh man, they will hold you down, and everybody will take turns on you, buddy. And they'll use the broomstick, they'll use bars of soap, they will use their foot, they will take care of you. Let me tell you. Now, how did I get off on this? But deviant behavior. So maybe our genes somewhere down the line, not saying we're like that, but our deviant behavior, that black side, that dark side of us comes out when somebody else does something that we say, I want a piece of that guy right there. I want to hit him a couple of times. Let me choke him some. Can I hold that rope and yank it on his neck a little bit? And as much as I try to be a pacifist in these things, there are certain things that I realize that, I'm like, okay, I want to join in, hurting this person to try to teach them because of those things that were hurt to me, right? Now, that doesn't make it right. And that's why I'm talking about it. But to those things, though, that some folks actually don't see anything wrong with it. Now, we don't like it. It's degenerative, and we should keep them folk from ever doing that again. But at the same time, How do you honor somebody if that's how they feel? Well, I don't see anything wrong with it. What? Well, I don't see anything wrong with it. Sorry, but it's wrong. But I don't see anything wrong with it. And I've talked to some of these folks when I was in jail and over the years, and some of these folks they're perverted in the head where it's like they don't see anything wrong with it. It's sort of like back in the day with kings and the brothers and sisters would sleep together and all this and cousins and, okay. But somehow some folks it's just not wrong to them. So where our compassion really needs to come out is for us not to want to cut them into pieces and feed them to the ants. We're not going to stake them outside, and let the crows eat their eyes out. No, as much as we would like to. Now, it also doesn't mean we're going to allow them to just be loose in society either. We have to make some kind of judgment call on that. But can we stop or change the deviant behavior if that behavior is somehow inherited within them? I mean, if it's killing little birds and thingies, if it's Jeffrey Dahmer, I mean, there's a whole lineup of stuff. And quite possibly you could say, well, his genetic crossroads actually date back to these nasty reptilians that eat people. Oh, so that's why he was like that. To me, I would rather know if he's from an outer space race that we eat. Most of us will eat meat at some point. A lot of us anyway. So the idea, and if people say, well, I don't eat anything, well, lettuce is alive. Go talk to it, you'll find out. But so this idea that we need these things to survive. But some people eat, alligators eat meat and not many vegetables, but rabbits and squirrels and they eat other things. So in the universe, that's the way it is. Now, of course, I want to meet some of these folks and say, I don't know if them folk are telling me the truth or not. Should I believe them or not? Sort of like the V thing, right? Oh, yeah, we're going to do all these good things, but they're stealing people. Well, maybe that's where a lot of these people are already disappearing. There are those comments that, Eisenhower and Truman signed a deal with the aliens that, for a certain amount of technology, they would take so many humans for whatever they wanted. And it's like, is that really true? What if it was? What if it is? So some of us have been traded so that our governments could get, technology and as Jerry Reed sang, my wife, she got the gold mine and I got the shaft, and I got the lesser half. But anyway, that was a cute song if you ever remember that Jerry Reed song from back then. But and I heard Ray Stevens sing a song on the Huckabee show the other night. I thought he was dead, but he's not. Ray Stevens, who had the Arab and and all them songs back in the day. Yeah, he sang a song about COVID and something else. And anyway, it was cute. So just to have a conversation and to put it out there to the universe. I'm just curious, like I won't name any names, but one particular gentleman I was listening to earlier, and I'm like, he's got this idea of what deception is in his head. But I think he's so focused on this idea that there's deception. What if there are 15 of these folks show up on a platform on a like a Dean Martin roast or something, right? And they show up and they go, okay, and every one of these guys are going to show up and they're going, all right, here's our a little slide presentation, here's our home world, this is what our sun looks like, and the next guy gets up and they show pictures, is that what it's going to be like? So they're going to give us this information. But so for those of us who already believe a lot of this stuff, um, within our hearts, not having to do with anybody else, but we just get it. And that, so it's going to be hard for them to deceive me, at least, from my point of view. Where are they going to how are they going to put a twist in this? Well, but Jesus didn't really come from outer space. Well, okay, but maybe his lineage did. That's the point. Okay. The lineage of all of us, it probably comes from out there. So if I was made in the image and likeness of God, which Jesus was, and he was like his father, so in that, then we're all made of the same kind of stuff, then I may very well be from outer space. And that's okay with me. But the deception, for me, how are they going to deceive me? So now, from a Christian basis point, the Hindu are going to have less issues because they believe in the Vimanas and and blue beings and different things. So they're going to be okay with this. They're have a little issue about who's doing what, but they've already got all these different gods with all these different things, and they already know they came from outer space because there were great wars over them, with the Vimanas and things. So our culture, though, is going to be deceived. But I still ask the simple question: who's going to do it? From which side? So from whose perspective are they? Are these folks who believe in giants and Nephilim and Bigfoot and UFOs, but not that the lineage of Christ or Buddha or anybody else came from outer space? So anyway, I'm I'm I've been kind of blowing bubbles with this one all evening long, thinking, you know, how they gonna twist this? They've twisted everything else. I wonder how this is gonna come out. You know what I mean? Hey, David, um, you snuck in the side door. Hi there, David. Scott says, I've always thought it ignorant to think we're the only ones. There's trillions of planets. We're not that special. Exactly. Scratch, I agree with you. And see, for some people who are just starting to catch on, I mean, we saw UFOs as a kid down in Tampa. I mean, in like 67 or 8 or something like that, we were calling up, the Tampa airport. We tried to get in touch with one of the guys out at MacDill Air Force Base because we was watching these things up in the sky doing figure fours and doing all that. And we were like, what the hell? And of course, nobody would talk to us, but all of us kids in the neighborhood saw it, but we were just little kids and we didn't know what we were talking about. But we saw it, that was, at least 67 or 8, somewhere in there, you know. Because I was still in high school is what I remember. So it was before I graduated high school. But then all of the times of being down in the swamps and stuff back in the day when nobody else was doing any swamping except, the Seminole down there in Tampa. He wasn't our next door neighbor. He was behind us, but they were full bleed Seminole, and they could go alligator hunting and all. And after Hurricane Donna back in the early 60s, bunch of trees down in our yard. Me and my sister went out to quote play on the downed trees and in the moss and everything. And that we step over this little, limb with some moss on it, and there's like a 6-foot alligator sitting there. Seriously. My sister goes to screaming, and I go running next door to get Sam, and he comes and gets this alligator, and literally goes, Dave, you stand in front of him and keep his attention. And he walked around behind this alligator and picked him up by the scruff of his neck and flipped that alligator up so his neck was like this, and that gator went to sleep. Put him to sleep, and he carried that gator on his shoulder back through the yard and back over to his house. He goes, yeah, he said it fell off the truck when we were down on the Hillsborough River, gator hunting, and the storm came up and we were headed home and the gator fell off and it ended up in our front yard. So, but anyway, interesting things and times. Scratch, and I agree with you. And I've tried to change my point of view on this. You use the word ignorant, and I'm not, downing you for that word, because that's how I felt. These people are, are maroons, they're ignorant. And now, now I have to be a lot more cautious, because it's not so much that they're ignorant, but I think it's they're afraid to believe. I just said, yeah, a long time ago. So I accept orbs and I accept these other things. I accept, the story about, me being down on the river and these little water nymphs led me through the fog. The things that I have encountered in my lifetime, and most people don't, I understand that. But, even if I had not encountered these things, I still believe that they at least could exist, whether or not I actually have the opportunity to witness any of it or take a picture of it or whatever. But to the point, I allowed myself to accept that, little people exist, and that, spirits can exist, and, and that angels can exist, and also demons. So, when I tried to conjure a demon that time, I realized, holy crap, don't want to go there. And so let's focus on the lighter beings in the universe, not the dark ones. What the hell do I want to call one of them for? For whatever reason, right? But why would I want a demon to help me do anything unless I wanted to hurt somebody, and I don't? So I did it because I wanted to see if it could be done. And then when I saw it was happening, I was like shitting my pants going, I don't want this. Take it away, God. Sorry, I made a mistake. That's why when I talk about certain things with folks, I realize how close I came to really biting off a crap load more than I could chew. And that stuff follows you. And so I worry for other people that they might, go in this direction by accident just to see if they can, and then end up like not being able to get out of it. We don't need that kind of stuff. But the idea, though, I think it's not so much that they're ignorant, it's that they're just scared to death to agree with it. Well, that just can't happen, because to them it's so bizarre, or it's so outlandish, or maybe there's a small part of them that believes it, but they don't want to admit it to themselves. So, and again, Scratch, I ain't picking on you, but I've thought about this idea about, for a long time, these people are just ignorant. And, and then I went, wait a minute. I had one of those aha moments, and I went, they're not ignorant. They have facts. They're scared to admit it. Like some of these folks with this art of deception. They're afraid to admit that maybe the ancient aliens, some of them were of the Christus and the Christ consciousness, and some of them were of the Anunnaki, and some of them were for this race and that race, and who knows? But if we look at our own planet, there are people from Africa, there weren't black people in America till the Spanish and all them folks started bringing them over. And here's the thing: they used to, bitch about the white slave traders. Listen, if you do your history, which I did a play years ago about slavery and so forth. And anyway, went into this, and where they were getting a lot of the slaves from the New Guinea and the west coast of Africa, there were tribes of black folk picking up. They would sell their own mother or their cousins or whatever. They just, they were in it for whatever they could get. And it wasn't white traders who were getting the slaves. It was other, native folks from Africa who were doing the collecting. The white folks were just showing up and they go, "Hey, we got another boatload for you. Where'd you get them?" "Well, we got them out of the jungle, take these, And so it's like, we have to blame the black man for selling his own kin. I mean, who ever talks about that, because, a couple of white guys show up in a boat with a whole continent of black people. And so the white guy's going to win? No. He talked to some of them over there, Africans, and said, "This is the deal." And they went, "Oh, okay, we'll collect our own people. You come back, in a month or two with your boat, and we'll have a whole bunch of them for you." And that's how it started. But, but it was the white man. Now, here's the thing. What a lot of people don't understand, too, is about slavery, is that slavery was going on before the American colonies were born. I mean, there was slave trade, in India and here and there. And there was slave trade long before America came. But it was just good business for them to continue the slave trade over to the Americas. They brought it to the colonies. So, but, as business people, how can we don't want to, we don't want all our white people over there doing all the hard labor. We got to get some of these other folks. So we can just feed them. That's all, So, but this idea that it's always been white supremacy, that's not true. Them folks in, on Western Africa had a lot to do with slavery, in the United States back in the day. So black people should pick on their own kind, and say, hey, it was our own brothers and sisters that sold us out to the white man. You don't hear them talk about that, though. Just saying. But that is a part of history. So what's this got to do with the Great Deception? See, they've been deceiving us all these years. It was only white Southerners who did this. When that's actually not a true statement. We didn't start it. It just got brought here. Anyway. Problem is that most of them only know what they know from books and means they're relying on secondhand information. At least there's no thought, just memorization skills and regurgitative skills. I agree, Scratch. Hey, Three Thinker. Yeah, David, they were selling the opposing tribe's members, their competition. And if they didn't have enough people on the boat, they'd sell their own too. That was sort of the weird thing that I found out when going through the history I did for this show that we did. They were making a movie out of it. And anyway, as someone very intelligent I know says, some of the dumbest people on the planet have PhDs. Pilot high and deeper, PhD. Education is not intelligence, and it sure isn't wisdom. I agree wholeheartedly, Scratch. Yeah, and I'm not saying that there ain't a few ignorant folk in there too, but in my own journey, in the shaman's journey, you have to take what you feel and say, well, these people are stupid. Well, wait a minute now. And the shaman says, but are they really stupid? Well, they look stupid to me, grandfather. Yeah, but Hawkeye, are they stupid? Well, they don't know, but, they know about this and this, right? Well, that's true. Are they really stupid then? Wait a minute. See, that puts a whole nother kibosh on it. So, in my own interpretation of how do I see things, I'm 40 years, these people are stupid, but now I understand that they may be a little um, misinformed along the way, but with all of the things about, UFOs and all the sci-fi movies and everything, if they don't believe it now, it's out of fear because they're afraid to admit it that it could exist. Whether or not it actually does or not, and them people are going to be peeing in their pants when they find out that, it really is. You make your own edibles? Yeah, me too. Right, three thinker. Who knows what's true anymore? That's exactly right. Um, yeah, I've got some brownies in the freezer, as a matter of fact, and I just brought a fresh gallon of milk. So, who knows? I might take one of those instead of my ibuprofen later. I'll quit doing this video, and at 4 o'clock I'll be so wired. I'll be like, "Hey guys, it's 4 in the morning. Let's have a party." But anyway, so it's great hanging out with you, wonderful people. Um, it's an hour and a half, and I'm going to try to do better, Michelle, and not make them too long. But I just wanted to pop this question out there and just put it out there for folks to just let's ponder this. Who's going to do the deceiving to whom now? Now, back in the day, in the 1970s, when von Braun was around, what he considered as deception then might not necessarily be the deception now in 2021, which we're almost there, right? Another few weeks and we're in 2021. So things have changed a lot since von Braun died and since all this other UFO stuff. I mean, things that were going on in the 90s are not what's going on now and what we've seen just in the last 5 years or so. Don't forget the Phoenix Lights, a lot of stuff that goes on, I've been seeing that UFO south of here again showing up. So, they haven't gone away. They're still here. They might leave and come back, but for those of us who have been keeping an eye on certain things, they're still here. Now I can't tell you as if pooey, I can't tell you as if I had actually met one, but there's something in me that says at some point I have met someone from the other, from out yonder somewhere. I It's just a feeling, and I didn't know who they were, but we probably shook hands and kind of nodded at each other, and and there was something special about the person, or but as far as I know, it was just a feeling. But in thinking back on, have I ever met anybody that I would have considered from outer space? Now I've met some spaced out people, not the same. I've met some true space cadets, and I considered myself a true space cadet back in the day. But with that said, though, I think at some point I think I actually have met someone, but I can't prove it, and it's been a while. But I just remember years ago in meeting some folks, there was this gentleman who just was different, and I don't know how to. He was a nice, quiet person, very intellectual, well spoken, and just and hanging out with some folks that were like, "What are you hanging out with these people for?" But anyway, there were times when there'd be some rednecks sitting around the fire, and we're drinking Jack Daniels, and I'd come up with some off the wall shit, and they go, "No, where do you get this shit from anyway?" And I'd be like, "Well, I'm just a little crazy." What you say, Popeye did put his spinach in his pipe every now and then. He was strong to the finish. Yeah, because he smoked his spinach. That's a good one, David. Attached and Hawkeye speaking the truth about the slave stuff. Yeah, I did a I can't remember the name. They actually did a they got the funding to do this movie, and as one of the first people, it was sort of like a pre-audition. They had me do some lines and read this speech from a slave owner's point of view from the East Indies. And um, I had a lot of information. I did a lot of research for my character and that kind of thing. 4 more hours. I can't tonight. I really can't. I've had a really good day, but I've been moving cement and doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to call it an early evening, even though it is 1 o'clock now. But so, my friends, I love you. You're thinking cupcakes. That's not a bad idea. Sarah, David, Scratch, Michelle. Um, I know there's somebody up here I'm forgetting. David Castle. Oh, attached. Yeah. And it's good to see you all. It really is. So I'm gonna make this one short after an hour and 41 minutes. Oh, Michelle, we'll do better later, I promise. But I really wasn't planning on this one. So, but anyway, consider what the deception is and whether or not you will be deceived, and just monkey around with it and say, well, I wonder what these crazy folks will come up with, because they've come up with some crazy shit over the years, and I'm just kind of staring out the window going, I wonder what they're going to come up with. Wonder what they're going to try to feed us. It's going to be interesting. But anyway, I love you all. I do. Stay safe. There's a lot of craziness out there and a lot of chaos. Stay safe. Remember, you always hear me talking about it, but I mean it. You've got to stay strong in your core values. You have to stay strong and confident with yourself. And every single one of us is important in this puzzle piece right now. Every single bit of energy, every good thought you send out to the universe. And remember, if you're angry all the time, you have your fists closed. And how can you accept anything from the universe if unless you have your hands open? It's kind of hard to pick up a donut with your knuckles like this. You know what I'm saying? So, but with that, I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you, and you, and you, and you, will continue to learn how to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. Because we're swimming in the universe all the time, it's always around us. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations, that means like space brothers and sisters, all of your relations, past, present, and to come, will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. And in that law of three, I continue to pray that each and every one of you and all of your friends and anyone that you come in contact with, that you will continue to accept, receive, and to share the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. I'm proud of each and every one of you for what you do. I'm proud for you to understand that each one of us is a part in the great universe. So when you feel lonely, just think about some of us in the chat room. During the day, not that I'm feeling lonely, but you folks will come across in my head. And thank you, Attached. Stay agile. That's a good one. I like that. I'm going to do my best. But Sarah and Scratch, thank you for participating. Three Finker, it's good to see you. Really, it is. And Michelle, as always, thank you. So again, keep the faith, my friends. And if somebody's feeling a little low, give them a cosmic hug. You know, uh, we rely on each other to get through, and that's okay because we are all members of the League of Like-Minded Beings. Don't forget that. Thank you, Bob, and for a blessing on the way out, a little bit of coffee to say adios. And until next time, my wonderful family, I love you, I do. Be safe and be kind, be cautious, be considerate, and give out cosmic hugs whenever you can. TTFN from South Georgia. Ween, everybody. Bye bye.